Now, we got our guy in here, Tom Loy, national recruiting analyst. If you want anything to know about any recruit in America, you are the guy. Now, before we get into the Jackson Cantwell commitment, we saw our guy Mario cheering away.
Let's go! Enjoy it. Go get out. Let's go, brother.
Now, Tom, we know that he likes to have his Cuban coffee, and we saw the fist pump coming. How did they end up getting this whole entire Jackson Cantwell deal done?
Relationships. Obviously, everybody's going to point towards NIL and the money and the financial aspect, which Jackson politely declined any comment on and said it's a private matter, and rightfully so, to be completely honest. But they did a great job with relationships from start to finish, and it started with head coach Mario Cristobal, Alex Mirabal, offensive line coach. Jackson Cantwell, called the best offensive line coach in America. Dennis Smith behind the scenes doing a great job, kind of they're working as their GM in a sense. So phenomenal job with relationships. He's going to be able to have an opportunity to play early. But this was pretty wild back and forth. I know we talked about this for weeks leading up to his decision. And it was Oregon a little bit, then he had Georgia. But what's kind of wild is behind the scenes, I was told that he returned from Athens because there was a lot of buzz about Georgia. They thought they were going to get it done. His last trip, just days before he commits to Miami, was in Athens, meeting with Kirby Smart and the rest of the staff there. So a lot of buzz there. He leaves. He gets back home to Nix, Missouri on Sunday. And that's when I was told, somebody in Miami's building was told from Drew Rosenhaus and his team, the agency, that he was going to Miami. And the decision was made. Now, what was wild was that I was told Mario Cristobal was not informed. They kept it kind of quiet. So as he was spending the next 24 to 48 hours recruiting Jackson, staying on top of him, trying to get it done, they wanted to keep this as quiet as possible. So then I was told Tuesday, I believe he committed Tuesday. So on Monday is actually when Cristobal found out. So yes, we saw the video and the hype. And obviously you don't really know because there were so many twists. There was a lot of genuine enthusiasm. That wasn't just faked for the cameras. He knew that there was a finish line that they needed to cross. So pretty wild how it played out. The Miami staff kind of keeping it from their head coach, which, some people think that that's a normal thing. It's definitely not. I mean, as you can attest to. So pretty wild last 48 hours. A lot of buzz for a while. Oregon, Georgia, but Miami got it done. And like I said, relationships were a huge, huge factor.
Tom, listen, as a former GM for the University of Maryland, Mike Locksley, our head coach, was the first to know if anyone was going to commit to the University of Maryland. Now, I get he was fist pumping, the Cuban coffee kicked in. We know that he's an energy guy, and that's not fake. That's real.
100%.
And if it's an offensive lineman, we know that that's his forte. But him not knowing until right up to the 11th hour is surprising. Now, you said, was there rumors of it might get out, or is it the Cantwell family not wanting that to get out? Or was it something that was always understood, the guy that was recruiting him was the only one that found out about the information and extend that to the head coach later on?
I think it was more about just creating as much excitement and buzz and keeping it as in-house as possible, because so many people for such a long time were talking Oregon versus Georgia. Yeah, Miami's in there. But really, if you look back to when the heart, the meat of this recruitment, Miami was talked about early on as a favorite. He'd been there a bunch of times, but everybody just kept pointing towards final visits to Georgia and Oregon, and that was the strongest connections and Nike money and things like that. But in reality, it really came down to relationships. And again, we probably shouldn't have looked past the fact that he called Alex Mirabal the best offensive line coach in America. So pretty incredible job. I think the twists and turns are done. It's only May. We have till December till he puts pen to paper. I think that the Jackson's going to stick. He feels very happy with his decision.
So we hope that he stays there. We know that this is a continuous game of recruiting, and you got to hold on all the way until December. Now on the West Coast, we speculated a little bit about the heater of what USC was on in terms of getting commits across the nation, especially in Georgia.
Oh, yeah. Happens every year.
It happens every year. They got some sad news. 5-star linebacker Xavier Griffin decommitted from there. What's the latest that you're hearing about that?
There was a point where I thought USC might stay in the picture, but I'm told that both sides are going to kind of move on. So the team I'm watching is Alabama, team you're very familiar with. I believe the Crimson Tide are the team to beat right now, heading into some official visits. Got some key ones lined up, as you see on the screen here. He's going to take trips to Alabama, Florida State, Texas, Ohio State. The one that may or may not happen for an official visit is Georgia. He could easily sneak over there. Not a big deal. He can get to Athens fairly easily. So I'm not sure that an official visit's actually going to happen there, but I do expect him back in Athens. But again, the team to beat is the team that is where he and his family are originally from. He's from Alabama, some strong ties to Tuscaloosa in that area in general. So I like the Crimson Tide to get it done. And Xavier Griffin, we saw him at last year's Navy All-American Bowl. Just an incredible talent. He opened the week up with an interception. I mean, he moves well. He looks the part. This is a guy that our guy's director of scouting, Andrew Ivins, extremely high on. Thinks he's one of the top overall players in the country, listing him at number 8. So big time talent. And right now, I give the edge to the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Well, you can't talk Alabama without talking about those boys down the road. Let's recap just the weekend at Auburn. They had 2 top 60 prospects, defensive linemen down there. You got my guy, Anthony, great daggone nickname, Tank Jones, and Vonde Cleveland. Now, what can you tell us about where those 2 stand with the Auburn staff right now?
So Auburn made a move for sure with both of them. I think that I think with Vonde, it's a little more interesting. So he's a former Alabama commit, strongly considering Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Texas, Miami. I don't think Auburn is 100% the team to beat right this second, but I absolutely think that the Tigers made a move. This is a kid that has no fear leaving the state of Alabama and considering other options. He's been very high on Florida and Miami in particular, so long way to go there. But Anthony Tank Jones, you brought it up. There's another Anthony Jones out west, so I think calling him Tank Jones is nice because you can split him up. But Alabama, Miami, Oregon, Texas A&M, my crystal ball has been on Auburn for a long time. I don't necessarily feel all that great about it at this point. I think that Auburn's absolutely a contender. They can get it done. This one, he doesn't seem all that close to wanting to make a decision. I think he's going to take his time. We brought up Mario Cristobal. He likes Miami a lot. I think that the Canes are very much in contention, but I can't shake the fact that I went down to Mobile, spent some time with Tank, got around him, got around other people. There's a lot of people that want him to go to Auburn and others that want him to go to Alabama. I think a dark horse here that isn't talked about enough is Oregon. I think that his love for Dan Lanning, love for the Ducks, this kid, it wouldn't shock me at all to avoid disappointing different sides and different people. He may just leave home for Oregon.
Now, you're the guy that knows everything about everything, and if it moves in recruiting, you got it. Now, they had a bunch of prospects on campus, but who do you feel real comfortable about them landing from last weekend's visits?
I would say C.J. Hester, defensive back, Dalton Toothman, an offensive lineman, and Deron Parks, another offensive lineman. I think that those are the 3 that Auburn really moved the needle with. Christian Clemente over at Auburn 24/7, Auburn Undercover, does a phenomenal job. One of the truly best in the business covering a team on the recruiting side of things. He's been hinting at things trending this way for a long time. So if you're asking me for a best bet, I would put those 3, especially Toothman, in that category.
Now, we can't talk about Auburn without making our way down to Gainesville. Pretty good weekend. They landed a 3-star, Jameer Perez, down there this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And they hosted 3 big-time 5-star talent. Calvin Russell. You and I sat down and just talked about him a little bit. Chauncey Kenyon. And also your guy, Felix Ojo. Now, how do these prospects, how do they feel about their visit this weekend, and what was your takeaway from it?
Yeah, big weekend. They had Luke Wafel there as well. Huge weekend in Gainesville. The 3 5-stars, it's hard to top that. But I think Felix Ojo is one, and Mike Roach has been all over this one. He and I have gone back and forth, and I think Texas is going to be really difficult to beat when it comes to Felix Ojo. But I will say this, dead serious. Florida made a huge move for him this weekend. I think that opened his eyes a lot. They're doing a great job there. Billy Napier's leading that program in the right direction. Obviously, we're gonna keep a close eye on DJ Lagway. But speaking of that, I think that the success of DJ Lagway and how he performs this year, that's going to be a key factor when it comes to Calvin Russell and his decision, keeping him in state. So keep an eye on that one. And then Chauncey Kenyon is going to be one that Florida, I've long considered as him either leaning or at least them strongly in play with Florida State and Miami. I expect Kenyon to stay in state. Georgia's probably the team outside the state that's making a move. But I think all in all, we don't know. They're not going to land all 3 5-stars. But if you can land one of this group, then you're going to look back. Billy Napier and his staff, you're going to call this weekend a huge success.
Now, you can't talk Florida again without talking about that cocktail party they usually play down in Jacksonville. Now, a guy that I'm familiar with, as well. Darius Gray.
Yeah.
#1 interior lineman in the 2026 class. Big, massive, solid guy.
Yep.
Went down to Georgia this weekend. Any intel on this visit this weekend?
Yeah, it's not great news. Nothing went wrong. It wasn't the case where, I just don't think that Georgia is eventually going to be the landing spot as he inches closer to his final decision. This is a guy we've gotten to know extremely well. He was at the 2025 Navy All-American Bowl. He was extremely impressive, one of the top overall players in America. I mean, this is a kid that went there in San Antonio as a junior and outperformed a lot of guys that were heading off to college at that time. So with Georgia, I think they're in the mix, but I think this was the moment where they needed to really take it to another level. But I got to tell you, a source reached out to me today and said that North Carolina is the team to watch when it comes to Darius Gray. I was kind of leaning towards even putting in a prediction for LSU. I heard a lot of buzz about the Tigers, but keep an eye on North Carolina. Look for him to set an official visit soon in the near future. I think that Bill Belichick and those guys, and obviously stay locked to Inside Carolina because we're going to have it covered, but Darius Gray, North Carolina, I think things are trending in a positive way, at least at this point in May.
We know in recruiting proximity is like key.
Yeah.
And from Richmond, Virginia to North Carolina, it's a pretty good, it's not that long of a haul, but a good enough drive to get there. But why North Carolina all of a sudden when we haven't been hearing anything about that with him?
It's the relationships, and we talked about it before with Jackson Cantwell and Mario Cristobal. I think that staff doing such a good job of making him a priority, that's really the key. And obviously NIL is getting in order when it comes to the Tar Heels, and there's just a lot of buzz around Bill Belichick. I mean, we talked about it as soon as he got hired. I mean, I think every show for the next month was all about what UNC was doing behind the scenes. So pretty intrigued. I would say that they are, the entire family, Darius Gray, everybody around him, pretty intrigued about a potential future in Chapel Hill.
Now, Tom, you came up here. Seat wasn't hot, but we have a burning question, a viewer question for you.
Okay.
Just to get it done. Andrew, if Oregon lands in Tiano, that's my guy Manny.
Yep.
Any chance they make another run at Elee? And we're talking about Zion Elee.
Yeah.
Out of St. Francis.
They can. I do think Oregon leads for Manny, your guy. That I feel very good about. But long way to go there, obviously, as we know, especially when you're dealing with five-star prospects. But with Zion Elee, they can try, but I don't think there's going to be any success. I think that Maryland is firmly cemented as the favorite right now. But I think the one outside of Maryland you got to keep an eye on is Auburn. I think the Tigers are ones that he continues to talk about. Maryland fans and everybody around him like to come at me on Twitter and thinks that I'm making things up and clickbait this and that. But I think Auburn's got a real shot there. I think that there's something there. Again, Oregon can try, and I really don't think that they are. I think they've kind of moved in different directions. But so I wouldn't really think that that's going to be a tandem that ends up in Eugene together.
There is a lot of St. Francis kids in the last couple of years that's made their way down to Auburn.
Yep.
So, yes, that is one that
Keep
we
an eye
have
on
to
Auburn.
got to keep our eye on.
Oh, yeah.
But Mike Loxley, one of the best in terms of closing and keeping. He lost me about 20-something years ago, but I'm not the type of talent that Zion Elee is.
And just quickly, when you bring up Loxley, I mean, I think that's the most important just for the viewers and everybody. If they win this year, they are going to have tremendous success on the recruiting trail. That's the only thing that people are talking about, other programs and things like that. If they lose, if they struggle, if there's job security chatter behind the scenes, that's what's going to make guys look elsewhere. But until that happens, he's doing a great job.
Listen, Tom, always great information. I appreciate you again. And if you want any more of Tom, keep up with the latest recruiting news from Tom and the team at 247sports.com.